Hi, welcome to another episode of Hot Takes. And this is an example of sheer, unadulterated, two-faced hypocrisy again by the Labour Party. But it's someone saying something, and I think it's absolutely lost the sheer effrontery of what he's saying. Because we have Keir Starmer, and he's telling the SNP, please stop blaming Labour for your problems. And he's quite right to do so, of course, because Labour did not cause the problems that the SNP are facing. Previously, of course, the SNP were blaming the Tories. And again, it wasn't really the Tories who were to blame. Because here we're talking about the black hole in the budget. Now, the black hole is a variable feast, shall we say, for the SNP. Because if you look at this particular year, it's about £2 billion. Next year's provisional one is about £3 billion. But currently, the whole thing stands at about 20 odd to maybe 23, 24 billion pounds ever since the SNP came to power. This is various governments. This is nothing to do with the Tories or Labour, of course. This is merely the SNP massively overspending, massively wasting money, spending money in areas they don't need to be spending it, not spending it in other areas where they absolutely do need to be spending it. And where they're not spending it because they're trying to save money, it ends up costing more because what they could have spent would have been preventative. And, for the want of a nail, the horseshoe was lost. For the want of a horseshoe, the horse was lost, and so forth. And so while they're busy sitting there, or at least Shona Robertson is busy sitting there, trying to do some very hard sums and trying to massage the figures to save £500 million, which is a kick in, that's a drop in the ocean, really. They're busy casting around looking for people to blame. They've blamed the Tories, they've blamed Labour, they've blamed Brexit, they're blaming everything. The one people they're not blaming, of course, is the SNP. After all, they're the ones who did it. They're the ones who need to look inwardly, look at that mirror and say, oh yes, we must stand up and take the blame because it was us. But that never, ever happens. This is the SNP, of course. But Starmer's urged them to be honest, to be open, to be transparent, and to tell people, yes, they've made the mistakes and that they own it and that they're going to try and fix it. That will never happen. Does Starmer not know anything about the SNP? They never make mistakes. They're practically perfect in every way. It's a joke. Now, Swinney for years blamed Tory austerity. Now he's blaming Labour austerity. But none of these things are true. It's all SNP austerity. And it's going to get a lot worse. Already, taxes are higher in Scotland. They're likely to go up again. Investment is just failing like hell. Nobody wants to invest in Scotland at the moment because the returns are so bad. They can't build their way out through property because nobody wants to because there's no profits there. They've tied themselves up in knots with the various legislations they brought in order to look virtuous and wonderful and look at us saving the planet. And subsequently, everything is crashing and burning. This is what happens when you let idiots run countries, of course. But Starmer was there and he's saying, no, this is nothing at all to do with him. And to be fair, he said a lot of it isn't even to do with the Tories. Now, he did castigate the Tories. He did, of course he did. And he was moaning about them. And he was blaming the Tories for the cuts his government have to make. Which again is, I'm going to quote, bollocks. Because that 20 billion black hole that Rachel Reeves keeps pushing, tell the lie often enough, keep telling it, get louder, people eventually believe it. Well, don't believe it because it's a lie. Who says so? Well, the ONS, the Bank of England, everyone who knows. Because they just need an excuse to tax and cut. But there is no £20 billion black hole. And indeed, when he came to power, growth was 1.25%. That alone would have, even if there was a £20 billion black hole, that growth alone would have filled it. However, because of his policies, growth is now cut from 1.25 to 0.25, and indeed is likely even on the next set to be lower than that. When you've got 10,000 millionaires a week leaving the country, there ain't going to be much by way of growth. This is his policy in action. I demand growth. What are you doing to do it? Well, we're going to make sure that all the money leaves the country, all the entrepreneurs grow, all the people who would have invested leave, and make this place so unattractive to investors that nobody will ever think of putting a single penny into Britain. And that's how you achieve growth? No, but it's how you can control an entire nation under the jackboot of Marxism. That, of course, is his ultimate goal. But he's sitting there, he's saying that Scotland, he says, is key to the success of Great Britain. Well, I think it may be key to the success of the Labour Party destroying Great Britain. But with, like I say, the present tax regimes and investment problems, Scotland is not the key to unlocking the future. Not for the whole of the country. Far from it. It's a bit of a laggard. It's the ball and chain at the moment with those high taxes and lack of investment. And it's only going to get worse. Even Wales, I think it was yesterday, announced that their public sector workers are getting above inflation pay rises. Now, I'm not saying they're not due them. Of course they are. But who's paying for them? Are taxes going to go up? Because if so, less investment. This is the quandary they have. None of them understand how tax and economies work. Because they're all damn stupid. Of course they are. If you are in any way intelligent, you don't vote socialist. You have to be a bit touched in the head or thick to vote socialism. No socialist country has ever been successful. Look at North Korea. Dearie me. But he's sitting there and he's spinning that £22 billion lie. He's using Scotland's 22 billion and saying, look, you know, we've got this problem, you've got your problem, we've got our problem. We're getting our way out of this problem by taxing everybody. Scotland, you've got to do the same thing, but you've got to admit that the problem exists. And of course, Swinney won't admit the problem exists. He can't, because it would mean admitting that Sturgeon got it wrong for so long. And the blessed Nicola gets nothing wrong. They venerate her name. They slaughter calves in her honour. They make gesticulations to the once and future Queen of Scotland. Dearie me. No wonder the country's in a shit state when you've got a psychopath like Sturgeon running it. Thank God she went. It's just a shame her legacy is still here though, isn't it? Anyway, Starmer's right. Scotland's in a shithole. Scotland's problem. Why won't they admit it? Who knows? Thanks a lot. Bye.